All right, so we're in the Let's Chat series, virtual interviewing, and this is part of ASU's preparing you for success.
Yeah,
And
right.
let's get started. Venkatesh, I'm going to mute you real quick just to help with distraction noise. Sorry about that. Okay, so today we're going to talk about test your technology, your interview space, take note of your appearance, interview questions, and thank you emails. So test your camera and microphone. It's obvious, but you don't want it to not work when you most need it to work. So check your internet connectivity the day of. Make sure it's hours before, just in case you have to call your internet provider or reboot the system. An hour before, test your microphone and your camera. And then do a mock call, like call a friend or ask a friend to call you on whatever you're using. If you're using Skype or whatever they ask to use, make sure everything works and that you like what you see. So as I bring this down, I like this better. This is what I like. Okay. Don't let this happen to you. No camera connection. No. So keep it well planned out, well thought out, so that there aren't surprises and you panic. Because the last thing you want to worry about on an interview is if your camera works. You want to just show up and think about what you're going to say. Okay, your interview space. Don't have a distracting background. Keep it simple and professional. Sit at a table or a desk, not on your bed or on a couch or sofa. So for example, I have books behind me, and for the setting that I feel like I'm in university, it works because it's educational and it gives you that educational vibe. Yeah, and so I'm also sitting at a desk, and I am in a swivel chair, but I'm keeping my feet firmly planted on the ground so I don't distract the people watching me by doing this, because that's really distracting. I hold perfectly still and I sit upright, like I'm in command and I know what I'm going to say, and confident. That's what you want your presence to be. I am confident. All right, eliminate distracting noises. Maybe one of you has seen that video on a BBC commentator is being interviewed and his two children come in, and then the mom comes in and like drags them out, and you aren't listening to anything he's saying. It's really adorable, but it misses the point. So if you see, he is in a chair, he's at his desk, he has a world map behind him, he wants to present the idea that he's a worldly person, he knows about the world, and he's professionally dressed. This is a very good setting. Better to default on being more dressed up than too casual in your clothing choices, but do whatever the industry does. So to eliminate distracting noises, maybe you have roommates that are loud, so find a space where you're the furthest from them, the door is shut, you can't hear them, or there's people talking in the next room, maybe there's children playing outside, shut the windows, draw the blinds, or don't have music playing, make sure your cell phone is turned off. And make sure the television's off and you don't have any loud fans, electronics, or pets. My dog is currently snoring on the floor next to me, and if you hear a large grunt, that is not me. I mean, might be a little hungry. No, I'm just kidding. So forgive me for that. I'm breaking my own rules. Also use proper lighting. So you can see in the photo of the presentation that it's really hard to see this guy's face with the X next to it, and that's a Zoom call. That's because he has backlit his screen, so that means the light is behind him. So if you think about light and what's best for the viewer so they can see your radiant face, have the light be in front of you. And the best option to do is to have a lamp. I currently have a lamp set up so that the light is warmer on my face. You can kind of see it here. Ah! Okay, so I have it set on myself because if it's off, my light is more blue. And so I'm not as warm. And I think warm light is more aesthetically pleasing, so I turn on a lamp. And then you have the kind of like TV anchor glow. I'm so weird. Okay, so have proper lighting and don't have lights behind you and don't have a TV screen or something that flashes, nothing flashing or moving behind you. It's really distracting. Let's talk about appearance. So what you should wear, that does depend on the industry. I know in education, higher education, in business, they want you to be professional. And this slide gives you a contrast. Pretty much business casual and professional have different standards except for colors. They're all kind of in the same color tone. And also they're all normally pretty conservative and simple. And it differs by sex or how you identify. So you do whatever's not distracting. Because the thing is, you want the interviewers to see your skill set and your experience. If your clothing is so loud or so awkward, or you're untucked, or you're not wearing a watch, you don't have to wear a watch, but wearing a watch is a good idea because it gives a nonverbal cue that you're time sensitive and you get things done. I don't know why, but that's how our brains work. Even though everything's digital and most people use a phone, you wearing a watch might be an indicator that you're time conscious. You don't want any logos, also no logos in the background. If you're female or if you're male and you choose to wear makeup, totally cool too. Make sure it's modest, but also highlight your mouth and your eyes, not with like bright colors, but with subtle colors that draw the attention to the eyes and the mouth, because the viewers want to hear you and they'll follow your mouth when you're speaking, obviously. So if you choose to wear makeup, modest, but highlighting the eyes and the lips. All right, tips for conducting a successful video interview. These are pretty straightforward. And then this one, I really like. It says, avoid making rapid hand movements. I do kind of spazzy rapid hand movements too, but to move more slowly, if you want to use your hands going like this or like this, or putting them in front of you, not fidgeting too much because that's distracting. And practicing is good. So you'll be able to see what you're like if you practice an interview with a friend or a coworker and you record it. So interview questions. These are really typical, especially when it's the first interview. Tell me about yourself. What are your strengths or weaknesses? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Why do you want to work here? And the why do you want to work here, they might also ask, why did you apply to this position? So for all of these, they are interested in your accomplishments, but also they're interested in what value you will bring to their company. Why do you want to work here? Oh, because this is a bad example. Someone asks you, why do you want to work here? You say, because you're on the top Fortune 500 and I think it looks really good. And it will get me a promotion and I'll be able to earn a lot of money. That's a bad answer. It would need to be something like, I see that we share similar values, or my passions align perfectly with your organization, and then you outline why. So answering these questions, you really want to look at the job description the whole time and think about the key skills that they put in the job description. Before an interview, I always print out the job description for the specific job, and I've highlighted the key skills that they're looking for, or the things that they bullet point that they want you to have. And then I put examples of when I have accomplished those in my previous work or my studies, in my social setting. Maybe I'm a president of an organization, or I'm a secretary of an organization or treasurer. I put down what I've done that is similar to that description, so that when they ask me, what are your strengths or weaknesses, I can tell them. I'd say one of my strengths is public speaking, and in my current position, I'm able to give presentations every week, which really benefit the student body and population, and I get positive feedback. And if that was part of the job description, they said gives presentations, that would be great. Her strength is exactly what we're looking for. So keep in mind the job description the entire time you're answering these questions. Come prepared. Tell me about a difficult decision you have made. Describe a situation where you had to use your problem-solving skills. What strategies have you used to keep yourself organized? And how do you keep stakeholders informed of your progress? These questions are questions I pulled off the internet and questions I use as someone in a business who's interviewed people or an organization. So you can find these online. And then I personally, in interviewing for jobs in the past, have put these questions into a Word document and bolded the question and then typed out my response. I might have different versions of a response depending on the job description, but it takes a lot of preparation to do an interview. Even if you are the best interviewer in the world, you still have to prepare and you still have to cater your answers to the organization. There's no one size fits all for questions when the organization is always going to be different and the organization is going to have different different descriptions of the job title and then also different goals. So I can send PowerPoint slides to you. Just let me know. My email, I know it's not on here, but I can give that to you in the end in the chat. And or you can email issc@asu.edu and we can get these slides to you if you want to get these questions. So part of answering the questions is telling your story in the answers. So the way to tell your story is a really simple structure you can apply to any questions that have open-ended or when they ask you something about yourself. That's the STAR method. S for situation, T for task, A for action, and R for result. So what strategies have you used to keep yourself organized? So if we look at the STAR, what strategies have I used to keep myself organized? I think about a time when I was not organized and what strategies I developed. So I can talk about when I worked at a organization that was phone sales, and in order to submit my paperwork, I had to check off a bunch of different items that I completed. And I was not meeting that goal and I had inaccuracies. And so I had to come up with my own way of making sure everything was 100% correct. So my situation was, you can see that I say I'm looking for an opportunity to better my accuracy in submitting forms. And the task was to find a way of doing that. The action, well, the task was submitting the forms. The action is finding a way of doing that. And finding a way of doing that would be to, I created a checklist that was interactive and I put in the information for the checklist. For example, did this person meet the requirement of 3.0 or above? And I would say yes. And so I literally had to go in and write yes on that checklist. And I make a new checklist for each individual. The result was 100% accuracy. So I would say this really helped me organize and become more efficient and more accurate in submitting my forms. So that was just one example from my personal life. Your examples are going to be different, but it's really telltale of having a story in mind of when maybe you didn't do so great and you had to learn from it. And that shows your resiliency, it shows that you're able to learn, and it shows your creativity. So good idea to think about those times when you haven't done so well, but when you've overcome it by inventing something or by innovating something, which they really like at ASU, they like that word. So think about that stuff in your own life. Use the STAR method for questions that have open-ended about who you are. Tell me about a difficult decision. Describe. How do you keep stakeholders, and you could tell a story of how you do that. So it's telling your story through the STAR method. Okay, the last thing is after they've asked you all of their questions, they'll say, do you have any questions for us? And hopefully this entire time you have been taking notes in a portfolio that you brought or on an iPad. You've been making little notes to yourself about the organization or something you were confused about or wanted to clarify. You can do that within the interview. It's good to have a back and forth. But if there's something that's really on your mind while you're listening to them talk about the organization, you will have that opportunity to ask that question. If all else fails, come with at least these 3 questions prepared if you didn't have anything come up that you could ask about. And I really like to do, how do you describe the ideal candidate for this position? And then I usually use, what do you see as the greatest challenge in the next 3 months? And if they did not provide the information where they say, our next step is to interview all the candidates, and then in a week or so, we'll make a decision on a second interview. If you don't hear from us in a week or so, you'll get an email from us, and they usually don't go that far, but they'll be like, we'll be deciding on second interviews in a week. And so that tells me I will either get a call in a week or an email in a week or so. So if they do that, you don't need to ask, what are the next steps? It sounds kind of pushy, like, well, what are they? They've already told you. But if they forget, that's a good question to ask. So what are the next steps? What can I expect? When will I be hearing back from you, or how will I be hearing back from you about this amazing opportunity? All right, so how do you describe the ideal candidate for this position? I love this because they're literally telling you from their mouth how you should be to get this job. And so you can wrap back around and be like, oh, that's really interesting because it reminds me of what I've done in the past. And you can give a little example, and then the interview kind of continues, but don't make it too long because they'll get onto it and be like, oh, that's annoying. She's still selling herself or himself. But I also take notes of who says what. I ask every one of the people on the interview. Say there's 2 people obviously, but if there's only one, I just say, how do you describe them? But if there's 2, I say, I want to hear what each one of you thinks the ideal candidate would look like. And then I take notes, and then I write the thank you email to whomever has initiated the interview. If it was a secretary who initiated the interview, then I send the email to the secretary and say, will you pass this along to so-and-so, and you know who's in the interview. At the beginning of the interview, I write down everyone's name who's present, and I address them the way they address me. If they say Kara, so-and-so, and then or how they introduce themselves. Oh, my name is Mr., then I call them Mr. Watson. If they say my name's Greg, just call me Greg, I'll be like, oh, hello, Greg. So that is, you address them how they introduce themselves. But anyway, in the email, I go back to that question, how do you describe the ideal candidate for the position? And I put in their words pretty much how I fit. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to learn about your organization. I know you value XYZ that they described, and I feel that I would be a perfect match given that I share, and whatever they said about the ideal candidate, that's going to be really helpful to you. So for the emails, send them the same day. Send them within a couple hours of the interview. If the interview is at like 5 p.m., you can still send them. That's fine. You don't want to send them like directly after the interview because they're still processing, but maybe within an hour, they'll see it in their inbox. Don't look up everybody's emails that was in the interview unless they were given to you. Only email the people whose emails were given to you. If you look up their emails, it's a little weird and stalky, so just don't do that. For follow-up, if they told you we will be doing our second interviews in a week and you did not get a call for the second interview, then it's okay to either email or call them to ask them what the status of the position. Have you filled this position, or where are you? I was wondering where you are with the status of this position. Don't email, say, did I get the job? Or, hi, I'm checking in. Do I get another interview? That's too pushy. Just ask what the status is for the position. But if you know the timeline and it's still within the timeline and you haven't heard from them, don't bother them. They are deciding. So they have your thank you email, but otherwise don't be pushy. American firms and organizations don't like that. A lot of them say don't call about the application. So and if you've gotten the interview and you're still within the timeline, just hold off a little bit longer and you'll be okay. So I want to show a video that the Career and Professional Development Services created for international students and alumni, and they are your go-to. I'm speaking from my own experience in interviewing and in applying to jobs. The Career and Professional Development Services will be able to review your they'll be able to review a recording of an interview questions that you make. They can do so much. So I really want to encourage you to reach out to them through Handshake. So let's play this video here. Here we go.
Hello, I'm Beverly Johnson with ASU's Career and Professional Development Services. The purpose of this video is to go over some interview tips for international students and alumni who are interviewing for jobs in the US. First of all, you want to do your research. So be sure to review the organization's website, especially pay attention to their mission, their vision, and then the job that you're applying for. You can check out websites like Handshake or Glassdoor to look at reviews. And you can also speak with current employees at those organizations by doing some online networking or informational interviews. You want to be sure to dress and act. So a firm handshake is expected at the beginning and the ending of the interview. And all throughout, you want to make good eye contact that's welcomed and indicates a sign of respect. You can show confidence throughout your interview by smiling and sitting up straight and paying careful attention to your posture. During the conversation, you want to focus on your skills and qualifications. U.S. organizations are required to make their decisions about hiring based on skills and qualifications. So while there may be a little bit of chat about some of your interests and things like that, you want to steer away from personal details such as your age, ethnicity, and marital status. You want to be concise in your responses. So you want to keep your answers around 2 minutes long. And you can practice interviewing beforehand. That's the best way to get a feel for the length of your responses. And you can do that with mock interviews with Career and Professional Development Services staff or through our interview stream service, which is available on our website. And you can record yourself answering interview questions, review your footage to do a self-assessment, or submit your footage for feedback from one of the specialists here. So thank you. Those are the tips that we have for you today. Please feel free to explore our website or to schedule a meeting with one of us through Handshake. Thank you.
So that was the Handshake option for you. It's really great, and they are so experienced and they have so many connections and so many staff that will be able to make your experience glorious and give you the skills you need to be successful in interviewing. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat now, or maybe you have suggestions. I'm all ears. Let me know. If you want these slides, I can put my email in the chat and I can email them to you. Whatever you need, just shoot me an email and say, hey, yeah, can you send that to me? I would love to have these slides. So thank you so much for coming. If we don't have any other questions. All right, well, you have a wonderful rest of your Friday. Be safe and be well. Thank you.